I'm sure you've heard this a lot, or maybe you've even said it yourself. I hate politics. Fair enough, but do you care about climate change? What about racial justice? Or maybe your thing is education or women's rights. Still think you hate politics? Here's the thing. Those issues don't get addressed without politics functioning properly. And that doesn't happen without a strong democracy. What's the difference between the two? I'm glad you asked. Democracy is a type of government where the power is vested in the people. That power is exercised by the people directly or indirectly through a system of representation, i.e. the folks in office, like our mayors, governors, state senators, and our president. This is not the same as politics, which is about getting elected and is supposed to involve finding compromises and working together for the common good. I know, I said supposed to. And democracy is so much more than just showing up to the polls, or at least it should be.
You could run for office. You could run for your local student council. You could reach out to elected officials right now and have a one-on-one conversation with them and tell them exactly what you want to see for your community. You can write your lawmakers. You can organize a protest.
That's Katrina Fid. She works for a Chicago nonprofit that encourages youth democratic participation. You'll hear more from her later. Now, the definition of social justice is a little bit broader. I'll let Dr. Sharon Fraser-Burgess, a professor of social foundations of education at Ball State, explain.
It is improving the quality of life for those individuals who are part of groups that have historically been marginalized and reflect the markers of inequity along the different components of the good life, if you will.
Dr. Fraser-Burgess says social justice can sometimes serve as a supplement to our democracy when the system fails or underperforms. Say you and your friends and their friends don't think that their representatives in Congress are doing enough about systematic racism or education or climate change. The list goes on and on. Instead of being passive participants, waiting for that whole politics thing to make change, social justice movements can push leaders and institutions into action. But here's the thing. That only works if our democratic institutions are working properly.
So, for example, a social justice movement is to end mass incarceration. So mass incarceration is a problem that has grown and grown and grown largely due to policies passed by elected officials and then the actions of elected officials like judges, prosecutors, things like that. So then you see the social justice issue of mass incarceration being so closely tied with the polling place because we are electing the people who are either going to contribute to this problem or end it.
Did that make sense? The relationship between social justice and democracy is symbiotic. They depend on each other. If the people we elect aren't accountable to us, or they manipulate the voting system so they don't have to worry about not getting elected, social justice movements don't work because our representatives are representative in name only. Think about the book bans we're seeing around the country, the pushback on teaching our actual history and the systematic racism that comes with it, or things like access to abortion and guns. Many of these issues most people care about, I mean really care about, are connected between voter activism and government accountability.
You know, we've got a lot of problems, and the problems exist at many, many different parts of our democracy.
Eli is a coordinator with the Sunrise Movement, a group aiming to stop climate change.
Make no mistake, we are in a really big mess right now. You know, there is an understandable pressure on all of us to say, you know, this is the first priority that we have to solve. No, this is the first priority that we have to solve. Part of the problem, though, is that we don't look at all of them as, you know, the same thing. Not every issue is a disease in and of itself. Some are symptoms, you know, you're looking at causes and effects. These are all just individually inflammations of a larger problem.
Our current democracy has not been fixing the big issues. Our schools are underfunded. Climate change is literally coming at us day after day. We have police harassing young people in schools. We don't have health care.
I think one of the roots of the problems is, we are right now experiencing kind of the eroding effects of what happens when you strip the government for parts over the course of so many conservative and or neoliberal administrations. What you are left with is a really crumbling infrastructure, a democratic infrastructure that can't really support itself and can't support its people.
So the question that's probably on your mind right now is, how can we fix this? And honestly, it all comes down to one thing: relationships, but this time between people.
Our greatest threat is that we have vacated these tools of resolution that are available to us in democracy. We have resorted to the brute use of force and power to impose our points of view on other people who see that as an existential threat. And even if we do not agree with those who are at the other extreme of our point of view, we surely agree that we want our society to survive and persist. And so, if nothing else, that should bring us to the table.